The creative arts ministry has grown tremendously under
Mm-hmm.
your leadership. What is the vision for the next 5 years?
For the creative arts
Yes.
ministry, I think that it's the same as it has been,
Okay.
right? Coming in early, one of the things that I would say to the people who are working in media and other things, and we even revamped, a space downstairs that was kind of a closet, turning it into a studio, is that I want Shiloh to be a creative's paradise, right? So I want it to be a place where creatives come and know that there is space, right? That the very first thing we ever see God do is create, right? So the church has got to be a place for creatives, because that's the first attribute we ever see of God, right? A God who speaks and a God who creates, right? And so I want this to be a place where creatives want to come and know that they can merge their creativity and that kind of, right, it's a right brain person is the creatives, that there's space for them too, right, in the family of God, in the life of the church, in the kingdom. So I want us to do things in ways that are just outside the box, but also in excellence. A place where creatives can come to the table and talk about things, and and then they create them, right? They dream them and create them, and we use that to the glory of God, right? So I think it's the same thing that it's always been, a creative's paradise. But as we engage in ministry of arts and creative arts, from media to singing, dance, painting. We've included a live painter, right? Just this Easter, that this be a place where people know that there's space, right, for folks who are thinking more on the artsy end, and figuring out ways to incorporate that as well, and keep doing it better and better and better. But I want this to be a place, on all fronts, not just creative arts, but I've said early on too, I want Shiloh to be like Grace Sloan Memorial, right? Grey's Anatomy fans, that everybody comes to learn there. Right, and then they go and get their jobs elsewhere and do great things. But they all kind of got their start, right? Some way, being connected there. And I want Shiloh to be a teaching church, right? The same way preachers have come here and then they've gotten jobs to be the youth pastor over here, or Reverend Jonathan just getting called to pastor his own church. But Shiloh be a place where folks can come, learn, build their muscles, but also not just be great for here, right? I want people to be great beyond the walls. Yes. So if their work at Shiloh turns into a job, right? A company, production companies, or, graphic design companies, and, things like that. Great. That's what I want us to be. That we become a vehicle that empowers creatives, and that kind of, ministry.
Yes, that's an awesome vision. It is. So the people are anticipating, they're wondering, is there a book under your belt?
Oh my God.
A daily devotional under your belt?
So I have been working on transferring, right, or I guess translating, or what have you, my dissertation into a book. I have more. 4 years at Shiloh has given me some additional stuff, right, for that. Because, of course, one of the differences is when I was working on my doctoral work, I was a staff pastor, right? And there's some things that you can implement and you see a little differently in terms of shaping and creating a culture when you're not the senior leader, right? You can only do so much. Shiloh has shown me some of the other elements of my doctoral work, and the leaders have read it, so y'all kind of know. But I have more influence and impact on the culture of leadership training and development and things here. So I have 4 more years of information. I literally have an email from yesterday from InterVarsity Press about exploring publishing. And so I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to do it. It's just a matter of kind of buckling in and putting together some timelines and accountability team to make sure that I'm writing and meeting the marks and things like that. So I don't know if that first thing will be the dissertation repackaged for more general use or if it'll be something else. But once I have that conversation with InterVarsity and we kind of explore that, then, we'll go from there. So
Okay.
I say all that to say, yes.
Yes. At your initial Q&A session, when you first started with us, we learned that you could sing. What do you like to sing to the Lord?
When did you learn that I could sing?
Yeah, the question was, do you
Do
sing?
you sing? Yes. In the shower, at my seat. Sometimes I throw a little song in at the altar call.
Yeah,
I'll turn over and wink at Pastor Just and say, I hit that key. I was on key today. I love to sing the song of the Lord and rap music. That's not singing. I can rap. I like to rap.
Okay.
But no, I'm not. Like I sang in the choir as a child. I'm a church kid, so singing in the choir, I think I could hold the note.
Okay.
Once I practice some more, I'll break out in some songs.
Okay, well,
but really, my favorite songs though really are like old school gospel, right, and hymns.
Okay.
And I tell people often that inside of me, in terms of like my worship style, there's like an 89-year-old church mother, because that's what worship sounds like to me. Not necessarily. I mean, we have a range at Shiloh, but if you were to hear me in my personal devotion, it's more like shine on me, let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, right? It's come thou fount of every blessing. Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal it for the courts above.
Yes.
It's blessed assurance. It is well.
It's all solid.
It's so all solid. How I got over.
That's right. Yeah.
Things like that. So, yeah.
Okay, that's great. Okay, in reference to tithing, is it a good practice as a Christian to tithe at two churches where you're a member at one church, but you serve at another church as well?
Well, I guess the question would be, if a church is good enough for your membership, how come it's not for your service? Right? And there could be a lot of reasons, right? That, people they might be on watch care, right, at one place. But just in general, right, I guess I'd have to ask, why aren't you serving where you hold membership? Now, in a case where you are away for extended periods of time, and you're actually like serving in a church in that place, then I think that you should tithe where you serve.
Okay.
Right? Because you're benefiting from that ministry. Right? When I went to Virginia State, right, and then I graduated, and I was part of a church in Richmond called New Jerusalem International Christian Ministries. Bishop Olive Chamberlain Brown was the pastor. I mean, I tithed there, but I sent offerings home, right? But my tithe, I was serving there, which meant that I was benefiting from the meat that was in that house, right? And so I'd say the same thing, applies. Now, of course, we have virtual, membership in our church, and things like that. And if this is the place that you're primarily receiving meat, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, right? So that would be my answer.
Okay. All right. So we have another special guest, our final special guest from the Rising Adult team.
Okay. Let's see who's coming in the door. Hey! Hi, Soraya.
Hi.
It's so good to see you. I'm great. How are you?
I'm all right.
Are you adjusting to being home from college? You ready to go back?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She got rules.
Yeah.
Where you going? Who you going with?
Yeah.
What time you coming back?
Like, I don't know. Well, I have a few questions.
Okay.
For you. My first question is, how long from the time you knew you were called to preach did it actually take for you to answer the call? And if there was a struggle in being obedient answering the call, what was that like for you?
So, experienced my call at 13. I did struggle with it because I didn't have a frame of reference for a child girl preacher, right? There were women who were preaching, but they were older women. I didn't have like a child preacher reference. So I'm like, I'll answer the call like when I'm an adult, right? When I'm older.
Yeah.
But I wrestled with it. I kept it to myself and would talk to God about it until I was 16. And at 16, so that's 3 years, I did have a conversation with my pastor's wife, Pastor Phyllis Hilliard. And in that conversation, I shared with her that, I've been wrestling with this since, this particular event. And this, I heard God say this to me. And she said to me that day, just promise me that you will not make God wait until after you've done everything else that you wanted to do in life to answer, right, the call. And I'm like, I could do that. But then I was thinking but I'm still a kid, right? So I have time to grow up and do, at least kid stuff. And so I did wrestle with it. And even after that conversation, I did go through like some periods of time where it's like, you know what, maybe I was just caught up in the emotion or the frenzy of the moment. And so this call is going to go away. And then I got to my college campus. And when I got to college, that first semester of my freshman year at Virginia State, that call just started intensifying. And then the crazy thing is God put people around me, like a next door neighbor whose mom was in ministry, right? Pastor John Faison, who pastors in Nashville now, but we were at Virginia State together. He would go home like on weekends preaching revivals. On campus, they called him Rev, and he was sold out. Perry Evans, Carrie Goodman, they were, ministers and psalmists and, all of that. And so, and they were sold, right? They were like down for ministry, and I would see them. And then my coach, there was a rule, we would have to go to church on the first and third Sundays. So twice a month, we would go to Mount Olivet one Sunday in Petersburg, and then we go to Tabernacle on another Sunday, like as a team. And so I guess that was like our community service. I don't know what it was, but we had to go. And I went to college saying that I'm not gonna go to church, right? Because I'm gonna take these 4 years off, and then I'll run it back, God, when I'm done. And that's not what worked, right? So I go to church and be sitting there like, oh my goodness, in this call, right? It'd be just kind of like, hey, you, guess what? It's you and me, kid. So it intensified the sense of call. And so that summer, I went home for fall break and met with Pastor Glover right on Route 22 at Perkins, and shared with her that I, felt that God was calling me to ministry, and I gave her like the timeline, and she was like, "Oh, wonder what was taking so long." Right. So that's how it happened. But yeah, it was a struggle, and I think a lot of that struggle was about capability. Right? Would God call somebody like me, right? A kid, a girl, at that? And at this point, I think like the answers to those questions are yes. Yeah. He calls all kinds.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What are your hobbies or interests outside of the church?
None. All I do is church. The church, the Lord, I pray when I get home. No, I'm kidding. No, golf. Like golf is my new thing. It's like my new obsession. I'm actually going to play golf tomorrow, 9 holes, because I can't get in hole 18 because we got some stuff to do in the morning. Golf is my new obsession. Sports of all kinds. Spending time with my family. That's always fun. I like to travel. I do read. Right? Sometimes, not always just for church stuff, like for sermons and learning. Sometimes I read stuff that makes no sense, right? The silliest stuff. I like to pause and binge watch stuff on Netflix, even though sometimes it watches me more than I watch it. But there's something about looking up and it's like, oh, episode 9. I'm like, oh, I watched that whole series, even though I missed 5 episodes in between while I was asleep, right? But, that I have the coolest friends, right, in the world, and I get to hang with them. I love that. So there's a lot of things, right, that I do.
What's your favorite place to travel to?
So far, my favorite place that I've ever been has been Cape Town, Stellenbosch, South Africa.
Fancy.
Yeah.
That's really nice. I want to go there one day.
Yes. And when you go, make sure you go to the place where the 2 oceans meet, Cape Point.
Okay.
There's a rock out there. sit there and talk to God on the rock.
Sit on the rock?
Sit on the rock and talk to God.
Is it a holy rock?
I don't know, but he talked to me there on that rock.
A holy rock.
You'll know what rock I'm talking about. It's right by the sign that says, "Here's where the two oceans meet." Big rock.
Terrified. Okay. What do you like to do for self-care?
Self-care, sleep, exercise. I love my Peloton too. So probably just as equal as I like golf is the Peloton. I ride the Peloton with Tunde and them. I like to get massages, right? So I do go to the spa. I get a massage, deep tissue massages sometimes. Yeah, I asked for lang-a-lang because that fragrance is supposed to calm you, and lavender. Those are my things. I mean, it could be placebo, but I guess it might work because I say it. They told me it works, and so in my mind it works. And I started getting like a lymphatic massage. Last year I had my first lymphatic massage, and I think that those are like the best. So I'll do that.
Oh, nice.
And then I did earlier this year. I got like a stretch massage, where they like massage, but they also stretch. And when you get older, you need to stretch. So it was cool to, to have stretching. So yeah, massages, travel, sleep, Peloton.
That sounds like a good combo. Was there a time you ignored the calling on your life?
Yeah, so remember when I went to college?
Yeah.
I was trying to. It didn't work. And this is the crazy thing. Even in college, right? So when I got to college, I was still 17. My birthday is late, and I had to get there in August. So while like my classmates and the other freshmen and teammates who had to come back early, like for camp, so because I played basketball, I had to go early because we had preseason. Everybody was like 18. So they were going out to the clubs and, not that I wanted to go to Alzina's. After I finally did go to Alzina's, it was like, I wasn't missing much, Alzina's. So anyway, but, they would go to the clubs and I'd have to kind of stay behind because I wasn't old enough. And then in October when I turned 18, it's like, hey guys, and, my friends would be going to do stuff. And while I was trying to ignore the call, they'd be like, "Hey, kid, you can't go with us on this one because we're not gonna be responsible, right?" There were guys that I was like, "Hey, he is fine," and I'd tell a friend and like, "All right, we're gonna hang out with them," and they're like, "Not you. We're not hanging out with them, like, because we're not gonna be responsible." So even when I was trying to ignore the call, my friends and people around me saw it. Right. And so there were some things that they protected me from, or some things that even, because of what they saw, were like, we're going to go have fun. We'll tell you about it, but you stay right here. Right. And so one of the jokes among my teammates was that whenever they got in trouble, like in group trouble, I was never there. Right. So there was. And then even with the call, right, because there was the call, God called me to ministry at 13, but probably 7 years prior to coming to Shiloh, I knew that the expression of call was changing, and it was time, like God was calling me to be a senior pastor and to pursue that, and I ignored it for 7 years. I knew it, but out of fear and whatever other, things, fear of not being taken seriously, fear of maybe not having the capacity to do it, questioning if the only reason I was effective in ministry is because of where I was, right? I ignored it until a mentor came along and helped me to be able to articulate it and then, move forward in pursuing it. Here we are. I'm your pastor. So, yeah.
As a pastor/leader, how do you maintain your posture in situations that test your humanity? Publicly/privately?
Ooh, sometimes I'll be ready. No, let me tell you. So, as you get older, right, the hope is that we all become more self-aware, right? In one of the previous questions, I talked about knowing your triggers. So I know my triggers. One of the things that has helped me, though, was playing sports. Right? So remember, most of my life, I played team sports, right? With coaches and certain pressure, right? That taught me also how to channel, right, my rage, being disgruntled. Years of my mother saying to me, Miss Mouth, you don't have to say everything that comes to your mind, right? And then sanctification, literally being on the potter's wheel and letting God mold me, right? At this age, this big age, I'm not a hothead like I was in my 20s, right? Because it was like 20 to 24. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, ooh, I would have slapped me, right? But I'm not a hothead in those same ways. So sometimes it's just a deep breath, right? I will let people know when they're pushing a button, so that they can stop, right? I always let people know, like, hey, you're gone too far, right? And then like remove myself from a situation. And then you get to a point too where you make decisions that I'm not gonna let somebody pull me out of character, because I don't wanna have to deal with what's on the other side of coming out of character, right? That sometimes there's too much to clean up when you don't maintain your composure. The other part is I take pastoring seriously. As a preacher of the gospel, one, a pastor, two, my words are all I have. So I can't use these same words, right, to tear people down, but then expect to make progress using those words to build people up, right? So there's also, as you grow, there's a awareness, right, of who you are and how certain things may impact the people around you. But in terms of being angry and want to two-piece somebody, I can't just keep on doing that. I can, rebound from one thing to the other. I don't think that you necessarily always have to be robotic. There's points where you can be vulnerable. So I hope that answers your question.
It definitely
That was a lot to say, but just, yeah.
It definitely answered the question. Thank you. That's all the questions that I have for you.
Thank you for asking questions.
You're welcome.
What is your hidden talent?
What is my hidden talent? I don't know that I have any hidden talents. Yeah, seriously. I don't.
Okay.
I think all my talents
Are on display.
Yeah, I don't have a hidden talent. I'm really good at putting babies to sleep. Like, I don't know if that's a talent.
That's an art. That's a skill, maybe. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't think I have.
Okay.
Not a hidden talent.
Okay. You don't have to have one, but you can tell us how you prepare your sermons.
So I use two methods. One method is a grid, right, called the Thinking, Feeling, Doing grid. I've talked to the ministers about this. I've taught this around the country. That I got this from Dr. Bernadette Glover, who trained and prepared me, taught me sermon development and how to preach and all of that. This Thinking, Feeling, Doing grid, where you take the passage and create a grid. You list every person, everything that is in that passage, including the people who are not there, who should be, right? The people who are there, not mentioned. And then you have columns thinking, what are those people thinking? What are they doing? What are they feeling? That's one way, right, that I'll start. The other way is a process called Lectio Divina. And so what I will do there is pray, right? Read the passage out loud one time, read the passage out loud a second time. The third time I'm reading the passage, I will write anything that pops into my mind as I'm reading it. And then I'll do that two times. And then the last go round, I will now investigate those pops, what I call pops, and ask myself questions. Why would this have popped out? Are there any of these pops that go together, right? Is there a sequence? Is there something that kind of aligns in this? And then I begin to work on the body of a sermon. Typically, my sermons will have 3 or 4 points. And so I will take those 4 things, write out a thought, and then I'm seeing where they fit, right? That we can preach a sermon, right, on this and putting it together. And then after I write those thoughts out, then I'll consult commentaries. And the same thing with the grid, that I'll say which of these things can fit, right? Or what angle am I going to approach this text? And then I put the body of the text together. At the end of kind of writing out the text, then I'll consult commentaries. I'll, consult thought leaders on if there's a theological theme that is strong in that. I'll consult, theologians on that matter. I've been doing a lot of measuring different theological lenses. So I'll search for a specific, like a womanist lens on this particular, passage. Liberation, what would this scholar say? What does that scholar say? Different denominational, ideas is what I'll kind of search for. Not that it's going to change what I thought, but I think that being informed more broadly also helps to be more responsible with preaching. Once I write the manuscript, I just implemented a new rule. So I have a 2-question rule. I just launched this last week in my class at E.K. Bailey, that the new rule is 2 more questions. Okay. So after the manuscript is done, for every conclusion I have come to in that sermon, I must ask 2 more questions, right? What those 2 questions are might vary, but I must ask 2 more questions. That helps me to make sure that I'm thinking at a deeper level, right? If I can pull out 2 more questions to ask of this text. Now, the 2 questions may lead to 10, right? It may lead me down a rabbit hole, but at least I've done adequate thinking and challenging myself, even interrogating my conclusions. So I do my sermon writing, like on Monday is a sermon writing day for me. Typically, I can get it done in one sitting, but then throughout the week, I'm going back to that manuscript and I'm working more, I'm thinking more. There might be a thought that I had that I didn't have in the initial sit. So all the way down to, I do a final read on Saturday before I go to bed, right? I've been getting to church earlier now. Had to make some adjustments to make my Sunday morning just a little different. And so I come in super early and I'm in here doing another read, right? Sunday mornings now. And sometimes there's a thought that I might have on Sunday morning that I'm like, wait, let me add this or let me adjust this because throughout the week when I revisit it, it sounded this way. But now I'm sitting here and I need to reword that or restructure this line. So there's kind of always a tinkering and kind of working with the sermon throughout the week. So that's how my sermons come to be. But of course, I am a series preacher. So those series are typically mapped out starting this year. We did the whole year, right, in advance because somebody told me that they needed the destinations for the passport by October. And so I honored Sister Kira Frierson Wood and did it for the whole year. But I think, the blessing in that is that my rhythm has shifted. So where in June, July, I would have been prepping the series for the second half of the year, I'm already into next year because I didn't just take the break. I still have been doing the work. So I may end up where it's a year out. And that, of course, is based on I'm watching Shiloh, right? I'm listening to the people. I'm hearing conversations in my dialogue with folks and seeing where we are and what the rhythms are. That's how I determine the theme for the upcoming year. Where do we need to go? How I'm determining in that theme, right? How do I need to preach, right? What are the things that will connect with this theme, but also be valuable to this congregation? Because this is the congregation I pastor. Right. And so pastoring here means that I'm trying to move a people from here to there, right? Sometimes that's small steps. Sometimes it's big leaps. But preaching is essential to that. And so preaching will always be kind of central. If you don't preach it, you don't see it. So that's how my sermons happen. Couple steps, well in advance, every Monday, all the way up to go time on Sunday.
Well, it's really great to know that you are a prepared pastor.
Oh, yeah.
And you are a preaching machine. So your method is working.
I think this. It's important to be prepared
It is.
because the people deserve preparation. right? You don't go to a restaurant, forget a restaurant, right? You don't go home and just throw food on a plate, right, for your husband that hasn't been cooked, hasn't been seasoned, right, hasn't been washed. Like, wash your meats, right? It's not been washed. None of that, right? Because out of care and concern for their well-being, you want to make sure that you've done your due diligence. And it's the same with preaching, right? That this spiritual food that as a pastor, I am given the privilege of serving on a weekly basis, and Bible studies and, what have you. It's important to prepare. A call, Bishop Hilliard, when I was a kid, I would always hear him say that a call to preach is a call to preparation. Right? And that's what it is, that life and death hangs in the balance of our stuff. And when we don't prepare, it's at those points that now we have to undo, right? We say things that we didn't mean to say, right? We end up, Cleophas LaRue said this, that preachers who do not prepare say what they did not mean and don't say what they do, right? So it takes preparation,
It does.
right? To serve a good meal to a people. And pastorally, I just feel like I don't want to have to go backward to undo bad theology or undo a sequence of words that I could have said in a better way, thinking through who is on the receiving end. Right, so all of that goes into it. May not look like it at go time, like when we're up there, but pastors that take this work seriously and take the lives of the people that we're preaching to seriously, a lot goes into it. There's also times like I have kind of sparring partners when it comes to preaching. Dr. Charles Goodman, Dr. Philip Pointer, Dr. George Parks, my brothers in ministry that if I'm thinking through a certain thing, I'll send it to them. How does this sound to y'all? Right? Or what do you think about this? And we'll spar it out, right? That they'll give their thoughts that, hey, I don't know. Like, are you sure that or you might be on to something. You better keep going, right? So that also helps in the preparation process. That, yes, it's a work with me and God, but also to be a responsible preacher means to also have some journey partners, right? Who you can send, share things to, or sometimes I may ask a kid, right? How does this sound?
Right.
Or after on Sunday when the kids come and talk to me, you've been with me, and I'll ask the little kid, like, did that make sense to you? And they're like, no, I was asleep. I don't even know what you said. And it's like, oh, let me be a better, more exciting preacher. Did I preach you to sleep? Or sometimes they'll say like, yes, well, what did you hear me say? And when they can repeat back something that was in the sermon, then I'm like, that's good. Yeah. Right? That a kid at 6 or 7 or 8 was able to grab something, right, from that sermon.
Right.
Yeah.
And even as one of the ministers here, we appreciate you holding us accountable in being prepared.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that, and I can speak personally.
It didn't go over well at first when I told everybody they were a manuscript preacher effective that day, right? But when you're writing it down, right, when you can master the basics, right, then you can start to do some of the other stuff, right? Now you can start to be creative, but you've got to master the basics first.
Tune in next week for more conversation with Pastor Brown.